And this old man, he just said, "Oh, Don Jorge, he was a saint." They think of him as a saint because of what he did for the people, for the local poor people.
This is George Langworthy. To Salford, he's the nephew of the former mayor, Edward Langworthy. But to the Costa del Sol, he's the Englishman of the Peseta. George is now the subject of a new book written by Mike Shapton.
He's known on the Costa del Sol for two different things. The first is that, the man was quite wealthy, but he ended up giving away his fortune. Torremolinos, when George was there, was a simple little fishing village. And the people who lived there either made a living from fishing or from working the land thereabouts, especially if there was no success fishing that day. A family would be hungry because they lived a pretty hand-to-mouth existence.
George became a Christian Scientist after his wife passed away and dedicated himself to supporting the locals of Torremolinos. He gave away all of his fortune until he had nothing left for himself, which led to the renovation of his home.
He handed over the running of the estate to his staff, but of course he had no money to pay them, and they had to find a way to make a living and maintain the estate. So at that point, they turned it into a hotel. And effectively, it was the first hotel on what we now call the Costa del Sol.
This is what remains of his uncle Edward's legacy in Salford. Him and his brothers owned a mill which gave jobs to people in the area.
In 1840, a firm was formed called Langworthy Brothers. They operated Greengate Mills, which stood on the banks of the River Irwell.
It's not entirely clear whereabouts the Greengate Mill stood in Salford, though what we do know is that in 2011, over 40 tonnes of stone left over from the mill was recovered from the River Irwell, including this Greengate Mill sign. It's not quite the Costa del Sol, but the Langworthy legacy will live on in the Costa del Salford. Shauna Burns, Salford Now.